Hello everyone, this is Shellie Sulzberger with Coding and Compliance Initiatives. Today we're going to talk about pre-visit planning for medical assistants. I'm a nurse by background. I'm also a certified professional coder and an ICD-10 trainer. I work with health centers all over the country helping them with coding, documentation, compliance, processes, etc. So there's nothing legal in the presentation. We're really just going to talk about the pre-visit planning side. So when you're thinking about pre-visit planning and getting ready for the huddle, that means you need to have all your ducks in a row. So what do? You look first at who's coming in this week. The reason for visit on the schedule might say like F/U or follow-up or checkup or annual. What does this mean? So you may need to look at the previous note to see why the patient's coming in for that appointment. Paperwork. What does that mean? You should have seen this like ahead of time, right? You want to make sure you contact the patient. So you have to tell the patient to bring their paperwork and make sure the provider has that before that provider goes in the room. If they're following up on lab and x-ray, do you have the results? If not, we need to contact the patient to see, did they have the lab done? Did they have the x-rays done? If not, we need to make sure they get those done and let's reschedule that appointment. If they're coming in for like hospital discharge, ER follow-up, do we have the notes? If not, we need to make sure we get those notes in advance. Some of you are using Azara or other like electronic things to do your pre-visit planning. You might need to go a step further because some of those are really just looking at screenings and quality measures. They're not looking to see like a patient's following it from a hospital visit. So do I have the hospital discharge summary? If the patient's a diabetic, we want to make sure that ahead of time we look to see when was their last hemoglobin A1C, what was it, so we can update our provider. The more information we do with our provider on the front end during that huddle, the easier it is for you and your provider to keep that day flowing efficiently. Make sure, again, you're prepared for the day. So what does that mean? When you are supposed to be at work, make sure you're there. So for example, if your first patient is at 8 a.m., don't arrive at 8 a.m., right? Because you can't be arriving, turning on your computer, and the patient's waiting for you. So plan your day accordingly. If your first patient's at 8 a.m., you need to be there in time to get your rooms ready if you didn't do it the night before, get your computer on, make sure you have all your paperwork, time to huddle with the provider. All of that needs to be done. So you've got a lot of prep work on the front end. Now, some of this obviously you can do the night before, right? You can make sure your rooms are ready. You can have your huddle paperwork out and ready, but you can't huddle until the next morning unless you do it the night before. When you think about this huddle, it needs to be active. Every participant needs to be part of it. Who's going to run the huddle? Who's going to be kind of the facilitator, the quarterback? Some people print the schedule and write on it. Whatever works best for you. Talk about what your provider wants for each of those patients so that you can get that information ahead of time. So do they need a UA? Do they want you to set up for a procedure or a PAP? Talk about what openings you have, if you have any, or where can somebody be double booked if needed. Inform the front desk. So call up there or message them and indicate, gosh, Shellie might not come today at 2 o'clock. She typically no-shows. You can double book that with a sore throat or something acute. Think about providers and what they need to be more specific in their diagnosis. So diabetics are a great one to start with. If you have a diabetic patient, start looking at their hemoglobin A1C so we can let the provider know if it's in goal or not. Do they have chronic kidney disease? So there are different things that you can help them with from a documentation perspective by giving them more details about diagnosis. Think about your protocols and standing orders. What can you do in advance? Now, this huddle should not take more than 5 to 10 minutes at max if you're prepared and everybody's participating. So encourage your provider, talk to your provider and say, we're going to start huddling every morning at 7:50. If your first patient's at 8, 7:45, 7:50. And provider, you need to look at the schedule. I'll look at the schedule and let's come together and talk about what we need. All right, guys, thanks. Have a great day. Start huddling. Pick one thing to work on to get better. Bye for now.